pleased to be joined by Dawn Kepler, the Collegiate Recovery Community Coordinator at Michigan State University, as students have returned to campus this fall, and it's a much more normal situation at our colleges here in the state of Michigan, the universities here in the state of Michigan, than last fall. Dawn, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me on, and I appreciate your willingness to put a spotlight on our students in recovery in particular, who have had a challenging time over the pandemic and are so incredibly excited to be back on campus.
Yeah, and let's begin by talking about that challenge, because for some of these students, these were issues pre-pandemic, and the pandemic simply just didn't help in the recovery process or in mitigating these issues or beginning that process. For others, the pandemic in some ways or another, either directly because of the isolation and all the effects that comes from that, or from other stressors in their life as a result of the pandemic, was what led them down a road where they needed to then seek those recovery efforts. Now that the students are back on campus, are you seeing a change in the trends that earlier on in the pandemic we were seeing take a really dangerous turn toward more students that were engaging in drug misuse or alcohol misuse?
Yes, and you make a great point about the isolation piece. So that has been a particularly difficult thing for our students to navigate over the pandemic. Even without the pandemic, isolation is the #1 risk factor students report to me that indicates that they are starting to face some challenges. And so the pandemic just made that all the more difficult for students to navigate their recovery. And we've seen a huge change in our student population since returning to campus. Students have had an opportunity to connect with peers, and peer support is so incredibly important in students' recovery and recovery pathway. And so for our students, being able to have weekly on-campus peer support meetings has been huge. To be able to have fun, sober social events and activities is also another big factor in their recovery. And being able to just have that feeling of connection has been huge for our students. The student population in general, not just our students in recovery, reported a 10% increase in stress at Michigan State University, according to our National College Health Assessment. And we also saw this in our students in recovery. And so having students back on campus where they can feel like they're more connected with academic resources in addition to recovery resources has had a huge impact on our students.
We're joined by Dawn Kepler. She is the Collegiate Recovery Community Coordinator at Michigan State University, with us on the MegaCast today. And Dawn, over the beginning of this school year, as students have been back on campus, have you noticed that them being back on campus has prompted a greater willingness to seek the recovery that they may need for some of these issues, as opposed to when they were off campus virtually during the pandemic?
Yes, that's a great question. And that has definitely been the case here at Michigan State University. The pandemic was a time of disengagement, with the guidelines being physically distancing. And so we saw students also socially distancing over the pandemic. And since returning to campus, we have increased the number of students who are engaged in our Collegiate Recovery Community services by 3-fold. And so we have many students who were just disengaged over that time, although doing well in their recovery. We also have many students who are new to recovery, who realized over the pandemic that they were facing some challenges with their substance use and are now seeking help, or began seeking help over the pandemic and now have found that they need to connect with other peers who are also navigating recovery as a way to help increase their support and have that safe community where they feel like they can have a real college experience and have fun and still be sober.
We're joined by Dawn Kepler. She is the Collegiate Recovery Community Coordinator at Michigan State University. And Dawn, how do you get students how do you get through to students to about how they need to quickly address the alcohol and drug use, and how quickly that can become a problem if they continue to abuse these substances or misuse these substances and kind of pass it off as not being an issue, and then all of a sudden realize that it is later on down the road?
For our students, many of them have tried to manage their substance use on their own. And that is usually one of the biggest indicators for them that when they aren't able to reduce use or go out and when they drink or use a substance, drinking, for example, just have one drink. And so that's a big indicator for our students and us that they may need some additional supports and some additional help. We also have students that a big indicator for them that they might be challenged by substances or have a substance use disorder potentially is that it affects their relationships, it affects their academics. And so for us, it's really helping students look at how substances are affecting their lives and helping them navigate that. So our approach here at Michigan State University is student focused, is person centered. And so we help the students navigate that. We are really fortunate that we have amazing counseling supports for our students navigating substance use disorder. And so students are able to get that counseling assistance. And then when they are at a place where they feel like recovery is the choice for them that makes the most sense if they have a substance use disorder, we have the Collegiate Recovery Community here to offer those individual supports as well as the group accountability and the peer supports that they get from other students also navigating recovery. On the other end of the spectrum here at Michigan State University, we also have prevention and early intervention supports as well. So we recognize that not all students have a substance use disorder. And at the same time, students might need some help figuring out how to navigate substance use in a way that's safe and to reduce harm. And so that's why we have our National Social Norms campaign here on campus, our DUCK campaign, as we lovingly refer to it, that helps students recognize how to safely engage in substances if that's something that they can do. Obviously, for our students in recovery, they have gone through the process and have identified that they are that they have a substance use disorder and that recovery is the pathway for them. And from there, we offer an array of services through the Collegiate Recovery Community. In addition to counseling support, we also have weekly peer recovery support meetings. We have fun, sober social events. We offer wellness workshops based on the needs identified by our students in our Collegiate Recovery Community. And we also do community service opportunities as well. In addition to that, with funding and support, amazing support we have through partnerships like the Children's Foundation and the Jamie Daniels Foundation, we're also able to offer live-in support for recovery housing. In Michigan, we are the first on-campus recovery housing being offered and the fourth in the Big Ten. So we're really excited about that opportunity and greatly appreciate the partnerships that have allowed us to have that live-in student position supporting our students in recovery housing.
So Dawn, when students join this program, is it voluntary? Is it on a referral base, or is it a little bit of both?
That is a great question. So it is a little bit of both. So we have a large number that are referred, many from on campus, either through counseling, from the student conduct system. We have students who are referred through our other campus partners, academic units on campus. We also have a large percentage who come to MSU specifically for our Collegiate Recovery Community and our recovery housing. So they do their research before transferring or deciding to apply to MSU, and they come here specifically because we have these supports specific for students in recovery.
We're joined by Dawn Kepler. She's the Collegiate Recovery Community Coordinator at Michigan State University with us on the MegaCast. And so Dawn, let's go a little bit through the process. When somebody is referred to the Collegiate Recovery Community or self-reports, what are the first initial steps that they go through in order to begin those recovery efforts in partnership with the university?
That's a great question. And one of our very first steps is to create a welcoming environment for the student. We recognize that for students navigating recovery, a college campus can be a difficult environment for them. Research has shown that college environments tend to not be supportive of recovery. There tends to be a party culture. And so for us, it's really creating that welcoming, inclusive environment where students can feel safe and supported. So one of the very first steps we have is connecting that student with other students in recovery so they can have a sense of what it looks like to be a student in recovery at MSU, and that you can have a real college experience and have fun and go to have a sober tailgate and go to a football game and be sober. And so for us, it's really helping connect the student to their peers. And then I also meet with that student to help them identify what their specific needs are and how the Collegiate Recovery Community can help support those needs.
We're joined by Dawn Kepler. She is the Collegiate Recovery Community Coordinator at Michigan State University. And so, Dawn, for those that may be hearing this and know someone that they may want to refer to the program, or they themselves want to self-report, what do they need to do in order to make that happen?
So the easiest way to get connected to the Collegiate Recovery Community is just to email or call myself as the Collegiate Recovery Community Coordinator. You can, probably the easiest email to remember would be recovery@msu.edu, and that comes directly to me, and then I help our students get in contact with the other students on campus. And also let them know that every Thursday night we have our CRC All Recovery meeting here on campus in the basement of the Student Services building in the CRC Student Recovery Lounge. And so that's another great way where students are able to not only get support through that peer support meeting, but also meet other students navigating recovery on campus. And so we have students who find us both ways, either find out online about our weekly All Recovery meeting and show up and have the opportunity to meet other students, or who have a chance to talk to myself as well as our CRC student leader first, help them get acclimated with what the CRC is and its services and how we can help support them. And that can sometimes be helpful for students because it can be intimidating walking into a room for your first time and meeting a group of new students. So sometimes the one-on-one approach can be really helpful for our students in recovery, or who are new to recovery in particular.
And Dawn, where can people find more information on this program?
That's a great question. So information can be found on our website. So that is MSU's health promotion website. And you can also go on our social media. So the CRC also has accounts on Instagram, on Twitter, as well as on Facebook.
On Twitter, that is at MSU_recovery for those that are looking for the social media handles that will take them to the website. The website itself is healthpromotion.msu.edu/recovery, or you just go to healthpromotion.msu.edu, and at the top of that page, click on the link that says recovery. We're joined by Dawn Kepler. She's the Collegiate Recovery Community Coordinator at Michigan State University. Dawn, anything else that would be important for our audience listening on campus or hearing this from off campus across the state today?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the things that I think is not as well understood is that students in recovery with appropriate supports in place are some of the most successful students on campus. And so our students have shown this in addition to national research. So 100% of MSU CRC students have cumulative GPAs above a 3.0, and 50% have a 3.5 or higher. And so that is what makes this work and these supports so essential, is that these students do the most amazing work on campus, are the most dedicated to their academics, often working hard at other jobs in the community and giving back through community service. And with the proper supports in place, they have some of the highest GPAs on campus, they go on to graduate and do amazing things. And so I really feel fortunate to work with this population of students in recovery because they are amazing students and just amazing individuals in general.
Well, Dawn, thanks for joining us and telling us more about this really important program that is available to students on campus at Michigan State for both those that may be in need of recovery and want to take those steps, or others, family members, friends on campus or off campus that may be noticing some unusual behavior that points toward the signs of a substance or alcohol misuse or abuse issue, that they can refer their friend, their loved one to a community that is welcoming and that it will be helpful in their recovery. Thank you very much.
Thank you.